My name is Jeremy Devins, and this is the Quiet Mind Astrology Podcast. And today is the Friday forecast, and we'll be talking about June 2024 already, getting to the summer solstice, into the midpoint of the year, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, the winter solstice. So I just want to do a little check-in and just say hi and just hear how you're doing so far this year. So we've had some pretty big transits already happen. We've gone through our first Mercury retrograde, and now we're in the Pluto retrograde I talked about last week. Me personally, and a lot of Virgo people, Virgo rising and moons, I know moving in this year and having big moves. So I just had a recent big move myself that I'm really loving the new place that I'm in. And some of the big changes you might have gone through in the eclipse season, like I talked about my own eclipse season journey as well, several podcasts ago. And you may have gone through some sort of big portal in your life or big changes of wanting to move in a new direction. And again, I talked about where that might be in the past episodes. But now we're in this point now, we're about to go into all this Taurus energy, which can be a very stabilizing, grounding force after those big changes of the eclipse season and as we go into the summer now. So for me personally, I'm just feeling like super inspired and like my new place, I really love it. Got a great view and a great workspace. So I'm just really inspired about my own work and inspired about time in nature. Get to go to the beach and just have little breaks throughout the day whenever I need that. And great food, great people here where I'm staying in Mexico. So life is good, lots to be grateful for always. And as we go through these constant changes of the transits all the time, everything is constantly moving. As long as we're alive, there's things changing and things to learn and lessons to work through. But for me personally, I'm just feeling like in a great space now and really inspired and excited about this next half of 2024. It's kind of crazy how time moves and feels like I just started this podcast, but now it's been several years. And I feel like I'm always just a beginner and always learning and growing. So I like that about life. And even as I get older, I still feel very young and I feel like I'm getting younger. And I actually saw a quote from someone I'll mention today because we're going to talk about the Taurus energy. So somebody said a very similar thing. I don't have any planets in Taurus in my own chart, but we all have Taurus energy somewhere, and we all have these transits. So as we go through this month, we're going to have this Taurus energy activated for all of us, which can bring out this desire for following our desires, for following what feels nourishing and nurturing to us, being more grounded, more stable, more in our routines. So I'm feeling that myself and very inspired about all that. So if you'd like to share how you're doing, you can always reach out via email, jeremy@quietmindastrology.com, or on Instagram @quietmindastrology. Love to just hear how the transits are going for you. This is usually a one-way conversation here on the podcast, so I love to hear your feedback in the episode on Spotify. You can leave a little comment, or on Instagram, or on email. So I always love to hear from you and just how things are going, and I always get great feedback, so I appreciate that. But for me personally, just feeling this shift into the Taurus energies, whereas someone like me, I have a lot of the eighth house kind of stuff, a lot of the transformative opposite energies. And my life has been a lot of change and a lot of new experiences constantly. So this energy for me feels very nice balance to have more of this stabilizing, grounding energy. So you may feel that as well. So let's go into what's going on this month. So there's 10 what I think are the 10 most important dates for the month of June. And we'll go into each of those. And there's 4 that I think are some very significant events of the month. So first we have Mars moving into Aries on June 1st. This can bring more dynamic, more assertive energy into our lives. Great time for taking bold actions, starting things, and just make sure you're being cautious and not too impulsive about things. Mars will be going through the Gandanta zone from Pisces to Aries. Anytime a planet goes from water to fire, that beginning of that transit is a karmic knot being undone. So somewhere you may have felt blocked in your expression, you're getting things done, you're taking action, is being untied so you can free up energy to take action. Also on June 1st, Uranus, the planet of revolution, changes, and unusual, unexpected events, is moving into Taurus, affecting financial markets and things like that. So there could be some innovative changes in your own finances, but also in the larger financial and societal structures, because Uranus, like Neptune and Pluto, represents more of the generational impact of events. So this is a good time for embracing new ideas, being prepared for sudden disruptions, like having an emergency fund for your money, but also just having a longer term plan with your finances. I'll talk about this one more in depth because it's big, it's several years. We're only going to go through one, maybe two of these in your lifetime, because Uranus takes 84 years to go through all of the signs. So this is a big deal, and we'll talk about it and generational impacts in an upcoming episode. And then on Thursday, June 6th, we got the new moon in Rohini Nakshatra in Taurus, and also a 6-planet stellium there. So stellium is when 3 or more planets are in one place. And this is a very significant event because it brings that energy very much into focus. So huge potential for groundbreaking opportunities, new beginnings. Rohini and Taurus, it brings this potential for whatever you want to create, whatever you desire in your life, that you can set that intention and start to manifest it. And this is a time where you want to focus on creating stability and practical growth in your life, like being organized, cleaning out closets, donating things, selling things. And that frees up so much energy so that you can have the things you do want. And all this Taurus energy is really calling us forward to look at what we do want and what we want to create and real desire. Like a personal example, I really wanted this certain kind of bread that they have here. It's amazing bread. It's like locally made and everything. And I didn't want to go drive to get it. And I was at a store already. So I was like, well, maybe I'll just get this other thing. It was just a granola that had a kind of similar flavoring and whatever stuff was in it, and some cinnamon and stuff like that. So, okay, maybe I'll just have this, what sometimes we might call a compensatory desire. It's like, I really want this bread, but I don't want to, do all the hassle to go get it. I'm just going to settle for what's right in front of me and take this granola. And then I brought the granola home and opened it, and just my body had no reaction, no desire. I smelled it. It was like smelling cardboard, even though it has like cinnamon and flavors and stuff. It's just, there's no desire. And I tried to taste it. It's just almost like no taste. It's like cardboard, even though it has taste, but it just was not aligned, right? So this Taurus energy is showing us where the things we are compensating for, and just like, oh, I guess I'll just do this. I'll just have this here, whatever. And then it actually has no actual sensory pleasure, no tastes like cardboard, it smells like cardboard, has no actual desire in your body. And that's feedback, right? That's an opportunity to look at that and decide, well, I could just keep eating the granola. My body's like, no, I don't want this. And I know how I'll feel later. I'll feel not so good, right? Because it's not really what my body needs or wants. So then I still just went out and got the bread anyway. So it's like, that's actually what my body's saying it wants and where I'm called towards. And for me personally, I've had a lot of stuff sort of activating in my annual chart, this sort of eating and doing things more for pleasure and not just because I have to or should. And that's more actually how I've been in the past, where I'd just eat super healthy and clean and never go off that. And then over time, I've softened around this. But personal transits for me, like Venus over the second house in the annual chart, that's a time to now enjoy more of the food. So eating for pleasure more. You may have something like this in your annual chart. If you don't know, you can always book a reading with me. We'll look at your annual chart. We'll look at your dashas, all that stuff. But for everyone now, this energy of Taurus is activated of what do you really want? And what is your body actually saying yes to? And what is your body a maybe or a no to? And to me, a maybe is a no, because it's not a yes, right? So if it's a maybe, just don't, if you can say no or not do something, then that's probably going to feel more nourishing, more supportive, more grounding, more aligned for you. And now all this energy in Taurus is inviting us to look at what we do want and what really lights us up. And then what can happen on that side of it is, well, do I really need that? Can I afford it? Am I ready for it? that's who am I to have this? All of these sort of limiting beliefs can now come in to keep us small and avoid going for what we really want. And we all have layers of this in different areas of life. We all have this in some way. It's normal. It's okay. No judging it, but to be aware of it and say, that's interesting, right? There's certain areas where you could just, you could have whatever you want. Maybe for you it is with food. You just eat what you really desire and your body feels good and you listen to your body. But maybe there's things with finances where you really want this nice blender, but you settle for a cheap blender. Or you really want this nice shirt, but you settle for this cheaper shirt. Or this sort of thing where you don't really listen and trust your desire and you don't believe you can have it or you don't believe you're worthy of it. So this is all an opportunity with this new moon now to realign with what do you want? What's in the way? And what would happen if you just did pursue what you want? And then you're going to either get what you want or you get the lessons that you need to eventually get what you want. And coming from this place of authentic expression, authentic desire, not like ego, not materialism, not what people think you should say or what you should say or what you want, what you should want, but what do you genuinely feel aligned with and your body lights up. I think there's a great wisdom in that. When your body lights up, it's a full yes, your senses light up. This is a good direction to go. And I think Taurus will give you the opportunities now throughout June to see where that direction is for you. Look where Taurus is in your own chart and that area of your life. It's going to be playing out there for your rising and your moon sign especially, but it's really affecting everything because it's 6 planets here. That's 6 grahas. This is quite rare. I mean, it happens every year in some sign, like it happened in Capricorn in 2020 and 2021, multiple times. And all the energies of structures were highlighted. And now we have to deal with like government structures, restrictions, delays, setbacks, obstacles, particularly with the pandemic, which was other transits as well. But that's an example of how that has shown up recently. And now it's in Taurus. So then on Wednesday, June 12th, we've got Venus, which rules Taurus, moving into Gemini for 23 days. So all the energy now from June 12th throughout June is being ruled by Venus in Gemini, which Venus rules Taurus. And there will be a sign exchange there at points because Mercury rules Gemini. So sign exchanges are very positive. Whenever you have that in a chart, Venus is ruling Mercury's sign, Mercury is ruling Venus's sign. This brings this better communication into our relationship, better communication of our desires. Our relationships take on a more adaptable, communicative vibe where now we're talking about the things that need to be addressed and what we really want in our relationships, starting with relationship to self, and that it becomes naturally how you relate to others. And this is perfect time from middle of June to the end of June for socializing and engaging in any sort of learning or intellectual pursuits. And this Venus energy in Gemini, our love, our beauty, our passion, what we want in the Gemini, which is dual in nature. And it is considering lots of different perspectives. What about this? What about that? That can be a little overwhelming. So all your 6 grahas answering to this energy of like, now, what do you want? And what about this? What about that? So having a sense of playfulness helps a lot here of like, let's try this, let's try that and see what works and be willing to explore, have fun, be more of a child. Again, let your inner child out, play with these ideas and not take it too seriously. And then Venus will move to Cancer after that, and we'll have to deal with the emotional repercussions of where we were too serious or not serious enough and cry about it and move on. So we can heal those things later. But now, in the middle of June, it's more of this playful energy to explore these things. And then on June 14th, Mercury moves into Gemini as well. So taking away the sign exchange aspect, but we do have this Venus now being ruled by Mercury. So still very much what I just said, all that stuff applies, bringing more playfulness, more wit, more charm, more adaptability into our lives, making this a great time for learning and sharing creative ideas, especially in relationships, and following your desires in a playful way. I love improv comedy. I've done this for many years now, and that's such a great way of expressing this. The whole foundation of improv is that you say yes first. So whatever is introduced into your life, saying yes and adding to it. And improv gets very interesting when you say yes and you add to it and you take more bold choices. And with Mars and Aries starting the month, it's a great time for taking bold choices, trying new things. And improv gets very boring when you say no and you don't make any bold choices. So if you've ever played, if you ever watch any sort of movie, if a movie has no bold actions and you're saying no to everything, nothing happens. It's very boring. You wouldn't enjoy that movie. You wouldn't want to watch it again. But improv is so funny and interesting because you say yes and you add on to it, you escalate it. So this can happen with Mercury and Gemini now through middle of June on of this. What about this? What about that? Let's try this. Yes and that. Yes and that. And we're including things, but within that, there may be some things you need to let go of. You need to change. You need to you exclude. But starting from the place of yes, and I'm actually going to do this. Yes, you can ask me for that, but and I'm going to create this boundary for myself to do this. Right. So it's not just like saying yes to everything and being walked over or being in some ways taken advantage of, but saying yes to life and what would make it even better and what would be even more interesting to add to it. So I want to share some quotes from some people who have similar energies. Like Brooke Shields has 6 grahas in Taurus, just like is happening this month. So some quotes from very strong Taurus people. She said, someone said adversity builds character, but someone else said adversity reveals character. I'm pleasantly surprised with my resilience. I persevere and not just blindly. I take the best, get rid of the rest, and move on, realizing that you can make a choice to take the good. Right. So this sort of adversity approach, like adversity reveals character, shows who you really are when things are hard, rather than making you stronger to be able to navigate that. That's her quote, her opinion on this, and showing about her resilience. Taurus is a very resilient kind of energy. It's a very true kind of energy. It's like getting to the truth of who you are and what you want. And I like this idea, very practical. Taurus, just take on what's good, take that in, get rid of what's not, and move on, not getting stuck in there. Jewel, the singer Jewel, has 5 grahas in Taurus, born May 23rd. Just yesterday was her birthday from when I'm recording this. And she says, love bravely, live bravely, be courageous. There's really nothing to lose. There's no wrong you can't make right again, so be kinder to yourself. Have fun, take chances. There's no bounds. And this is very fitting with Jupiter in Taurus right now throughout this whole year until May 2025. Love bravely, live bravely, be courageous. There's really nothing to lose, right? So this idea of Taurus, of just follow your desire, do what you want, do what's aligned, do what's true for you. Know that if you make mistakes, quote unquote, that you can address them and change them. And it's a beautiful quote, beautiful way of putting this Taurus energy, especially with Jupiter and Taurus right now. And Jennifer Garner, whose birthday was actually April 17th, she doesn't have Sun in Taurus, she has Sun in Aries, but she has 4 grahas in Taurus. And she says, beauty comes from a life well lived. If you've lived well, your smile lines are in the right places and your frown lines aren't too bad. What more do you need? So similar kind of energy here with all these strong Taurus energy quotes. It's like, enjoy life and just do what's really true for you. Follow your desires. Don't let things get too heavy or too serious or too worried about it. Like, really just enjoy the life that you have. Know that you can make mistakes, be compassionate with yourself, and you will figure it out. And if you want to see where Taurus is in your chart, of course, you can go to quietmindastrology.com, get your free birth chart, and then take the 101 course to decode it. So I go through in detail how to read every part of what you see on that page. That's at quietmindastrology.com/101. You can still get a late registration discount for a limited time until the end of June. So if you missed the early registration, you can still get in at a slightly discounted rate at quietmindastrology.com/101, and I'll walk you through every part of your chart, every planet, sign, and house, and how to decode it. Super fun. It was amazing. Last week, I did this live, and you can catch the recording right now. It was super fun. Definitely recommend checking it out. So let's continue on with the second half of our June 2024 horoscope. So on Friday, June 14th, the sun moves into Gemini. So, it's got a lot of Gemini energy coming in the middle of the month, right? This brings more focus on communication, learning, and social activities. Great time for networking and pursuing intellectual interests. Now bringing a spotlight into the Gemini energy in the second half of the month, where we're exploring, communicating, learning, and growing. Then on June 20th, the summer solstice is already here. It's the longest day of the year, symbolizing abundance and growth. Using this positive energy for outdoor activities, reflecting on your goals, celebration is all very favorable. So this is Northern Hemisphere. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, they have the winter solstice at this time, so it's the opposite. It's the shortest day of the year. So that's a more internal time. Either way, it's the maximum imbalance of the year. So in the Northern Hemisphere, it's the hottest time. Really, the heat really fully hits the Earth a month later. So that's part of the relationship with the sun and the Earth, is that the actual heat might come in July or August, where it's actually the hotter time, but we're closest to the sun on June 20th. And the day is the longest and the night is the shortest in the Northern Hemisphere. So great time to honor that energy and just celebrate, be out, be exploring, be trying new things, meeting new people, going to events, but also being mindful of the imbalance. Whatever hemisphere you're in, there's an imbalance to one side. So if things are out of balance, we do the opposite. This is the principle of Ayurveda. Like increases like, and opposites bring balance. So if you got too much heat in the hot summer, get some watermelon. So one of the most common things we all do in the summer is we eat things that balance it out, like watermelon. So eating melons, lots of water, things that are naturally hydrating, cucumber water, these kind of things are great to balance it out. And of course, Southern Hemisphere, it's just the opposite applies there, with the colder, darker nights, bringing in the cooler, lighter qualities. On Saturday, June 22nd, we have the full moon in Mula nakshatra inside of Sagittarius. Mula is at the center of our galaxy in Sagittarius. It's the time for completing projects, full moon, completion, and gaining deep emotional insights. Perfect for spiritual activities and self-reflection. Sagittarius energy ruled by the Jupiter and Taurus. So still this strong Taurus energy going on this month. And this is a great time for getting to the root of what we really want throughout the whole month. But here on the full moon, sort of landing like with a thump into that center of yourself, of like, this is who I am, this is what I want, this is what I believe and value and want to move towards. It's going to be some great insights at this time. Great day for celebration all around this weekend, June 20th to 22nd to 23rd. And then on Saturday, June 29th, Mercury moves on to Cancer. Mercury moves fast. So our communication becomes more emotional and intuitive, focus on expressing your feelings and connecting deeply with others. Great time for sharing more vulnerably, more intimately with others, expressing yourself, connecting to what you really feel internally and following your feelings to their truth. And then on Saturday, June 29th, Saturn goes retrograde in Aquarius for about 5 months. This happens every year. Saturn goes retrograde and then it goes direct. So it happens every year for about this time. And it's a time to review and reassess your long-term goals and commitment. Great time for gaining new insights into your responsibilities. Be patient with any delays or challenges or setbacks at this time. So this is where we've seen the big growth of technology in the last few months, and now some slowing down, some making those things better, improving upon them throughout the second half of the year. On a personal level, going back to the routines and things that really nourish you. I'll do a whole episode on just this transit because it's a big one, and I'll go through sign by sign for that. So we've got that coming up as well later this month. Now, just to summarize a bit, some of the 5 auspicious things to do: embrace innovations with Uranus and Taurus and all this Taurus energy also there. Welcome new and unconventional ideas, especially in financial and societal matters. Be open to change and technological advancements, using things like AI and maybe new software to help improve your life and your finances. Number 2, initiate new ventures. With all this Taurus energy and the new moon there on June 6th, this is a powerful time for starting new projects, especially those related to your stability and practical growth and family matters. Number 3, communicate clearly and be adaptable with all the Venus and Mercury connection and the Mercury and Gemini in the middle of the month. Focus on enhancing your communication skills, find ways to be more social in the network, and pursue your intellectual interests and create more connections through that, like educational programs, containers that you join, mentorships, trainings, books, book clubs, these kind of things. Number 4, reflect and set intentions. So utilize the summer solstice on June 20th to reflect on your growth and your set new intentions. Great time for celebrating your achievements and planning for the future. That is, especially if you're like an entrepreneur or business owner, a lot of people who listen are doing your own projects and doing a lot of cool stuff. It's very easy to be future oriented and just what's next? What's the next transit? What's coming up? And that's great. And it's also a good time with the full moon and the solstice around the 20th to pause and just celebrate and reflect on all that you have done this year. And then the 5th thing that's auspicious this month to consider is focusing on emotional and spiritual well-being. So with Mercury moving into Cancer at the end of the month and the full moon in Mula and Sagittarius, prioritize your emotional health and spiritual practices. Engage in nurturing conversations, introspection, time to study the things that you love with all the Mercury energy this month, bringing in this great support for learning new things and connecting with people around those things. And there's going to be a lot of spiritual growth in June 2024. Some of the inauspicious things, you want to avoid impulsiveness around the beginning of the month with Mars and Aries, and in that Gadanta zone, which is going to untie a karmic knot for you, or you're going to do it intentionally. It can either happen to you, or you can do it in sync with the universe. Number 2 is resist stubbornness. With all this Taurus energy, you might have some resistance to change and cling to old habits or traditions that no longer serve you. But with the new moon there, I think it is going to open up potential for just moving on and starting these things, letting go of the past. Number 3, steer clear of indecision. With Venus and Gemini in the middle of the month, that can bring in some indecisiveness with all that Venus energy. Now, Gemini aspect of it is like, well, what do I want? Is this right? Am I doing the right thing? You never know. You never really get 100% yes. Universe says, okay, here you go. It will give you lots of signs. Sometimes you get like 95% there and synchronicities and messages that you're clearly on the right path. These incredible synchronicities happen, but you never get 100%. So the best you can do is trust your intuition, trust the signs of the universe, and not overthink it too much. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. It can become very intellectual, very heady, overthinking, overanalyzing things, but let your body guide you. Let your intuition guide you. Let the synchronicities guide you. Be clear about your commitments and avoid sending mixed signals to yourself and to others. Number 4, don't overload yourself. With Mercury and Gemini, there's a risk of scattered thoughts and communication overload, taking on too much. And with all the sun moves to Gemini and all the Gemini energy in the second half of the month that comes in, that can have you following your desire now into so many directions you get overwhelmed. So prioritize the tasks that really do matter and avoid overloading your schedule with too many activities. Number 5, beware of emotional intensity. With the full moon in Mula and Mercury in Cancer at the end of the month can really heighten emotions, and you could get overwhelmed by the emotional intensity. So practice grounding techniques to stay balanced. So we've got that first half of the month to get really grounded and true to our desires and our expression. And the second half to explore, and the end of the month to now have the emotional sort of repercussions of that, where we feel either the joy, the sadness, the fear, the anxiety, whatever, the self-doubt, the celebration, whatever the things are. It could be a lot, all of that at once, maybe. To have that grounding from the beginning of the month and the middle of the month that we did to now anchor us in and do things like restorative yoga, yin yoga, to center and ground at your center in Mula, which is about getting to the center of the issue at the end of the month. So in the next episode, I'll talk about Uranus and Taurus for all signs. So you'll want to know where Taurus is in your chart, and we'll talk about that for your rising and moon sign. So again, if you don't have your chart, go to quietmindastrology.com, where you can get your free birth chart and a little training. And you can also join in on the Decode Your Birth Chart 101 course. It's amazing. I'm very happy with it. I think this is the best one I've done. I think it's the fifth or sixth that I've hosted live online. And this one, we just really go through everything. It's a workshop. So we go through your planet, signs, houses, and then your most important nakshatras and how to decode it. So by the end of this, you'll know how to look at your chart and say, I have blank, and that means blank. I have Venus and Taurus, and that means that I'm going to love things like interior design and gardening, and I would really benefit from prioritizing making my home beautiful and having nice things in my home, and also benefit from taking good care of my diet and eating natural things and eating more organic foods, growing a garden, these kind of things, which would be strengths for Venus and Taurus, which are very different than Venus and Scorpio, the opposite, which is a totally different energy, which would prioritize things like transformation and growth and experiencing new things, new relationships, new dating, all this kind of stuff. So very different energies, but once you know how to decode your chart, you know how to look at any placement and say what it means. So that's what we do at the 101 workshop. Check it out. And if you enjoy the podcast, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, share it with a friend, follow on YouTube and Instagram for more videos and fun memes and all that. And I just want to say thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode and look forward to sharing more with you next time on the Quiet Mind Astrology Podcast.